Hello, my name is Michael Murdoch and I'm going to take you through how to deliver your brand on a budget. So before we begin, I'll just briefly tell you a little bit about us. We are The House. We believe in business as unusual. And what does that mean? Well, we are a digital branding agency. We've been around for about 10 years and primarily working with charities and social enterprises as well as the hospitality industry. And we like to dream, create and amaze. These are our 4 services: strategy, branding, motion and digital. And therefore we are full service and get to see a lot of the communications output. Here are just some of our clients, as I say, some in the public sector, some in the hospitality sector, and the rest tend to be tech. Our process is as follows. We've got 7 steps to heaven. First we discuss, then we diagnose the problem, then we define the solution, we get creative and start designing, we develop these ideas into animations, websites, apps, etc. We deliver these and we make sure we've properly user tested so that we've got full quality assurance. And at the end of the process, we do a debrief and sit down with our clients a few weeks, months later to go through what worked, what didn't work, and where improvements could be made. Here's just a brief selection of some of our work. We like to think it's engaging, colourful, fun, and ultimately different. So for this session, we are going to look at the objectives and how you understand what branding is rather than just a logo. Then we're going to set the foundations in place. We want to deeply look at research, testing ideas, and of course networking, because networking is key. We want to make it personal, articulate your value proposition. That sounds complex, but basically what is it that you have to offer and who's it for? Then we get creative, so what most people think of as branding, looking at the mood boards, images, brand identities, guidelines, fonts, colours, etc. And then we want to take this out to the world. Normally I would have time for questions. If you would like to ask any questions, please pop them in the comments in the YouTube link. So before we start, here's a few fun logos to inspire. FedEx used to be Federal Express, and you can see there's a hidden arrow between the E and the X, suggesting direction. Baskin-Robbins used to be quite a famous ice cream brand. They have 31 flavours, and they've got that in their logo. Cisco started in San Francisco, and you can see that logo is the Golden Gate Bridge. LSO is the London Symphony Orchestra, and also looks like a conductor with a baton, which is pretty clever. A few more. We've got a hidden bear within Toblerone because they're the Swiss brand, and the bear is a Swiss icon. Above or within the tour, there's a cyclist of Le Tour de France. Amazon has its smile, which they tend to rely on by itself these days, and Beats headphones. Not only does it look like a bee, which is great for the logo, but it's the headphone icon as well. Imagine a little nose on the left or the right of the face. A few key facts, brand facts. It's not always gone to plan. McDonald's started as a hot dog company. Ben & Jerry's were considering being a bagel company. Nokia started off with wood pulp mill in the city of Nokia in Finland, but other successes are things like Rolls-Royce. 75% of the Rolls-Royce cars on the road are still there from the originals, which is amazing. So have a look at those, and I'm sure there are tons more on the internet. So the objectives. First, we want to understand the brand beyond just the logo. Look at research, start experimenting with ideas. Think about your value proposition. What is it you have to offer and how you're going to communicate those messages. And then we want to differentiate ourselves from the competition. It doesn't have to be unique, but it does have to be different. And we want to visualize your proposition. So branding is like falling in love. We'd like it to be more of A than B. It's about what you do at first sight, so how you look, how you act, how you appear, how they hear about you. But then it's about building a deeper relationship with your customer. So make sure that they're engaged, excited, interested, surprised by what you have to do, rather than option B, which looks like a little bit of disgust. So to make your customers fall in love with you, they need to have trust. So we'll have a look at that in detail now. So what does trust look like? Well, it's about credibility. What is it that you've done? Why should they believe you? Reliability. What is it that you're doing? Everything that you do, from your customer service to your product to your ideas. And then the intimacy. How do you actually connect with your customers? And how do they understand how you work? So for you, there's some benefits. You become market authority. You don't need a middleman. You can charge higher prices, make more money. For your customer, they're reassured that you are the brand to trust. Think of companies like John Lewis. You know you can trust them. You know you're never going to be sold a product at a price that's not fair, and you know that they're going to give you guarantees. They can also think about the added value that your brand will bring, the source of innovation, and it helps manage their expectations. A couple of quotations and descriptions. Next, we've got your smile is your logo, your personality is your business card, and how you leave others feeling after an experience with you is your trademark. So again, it's all about falling in love at first sight with your smile. Your personality, as your brand gets to know your audience, and vice versa, you can build that relationship. And as how they feel after they leave you is when they fall in love and hopefully want to come back for more. So branding is all about the essence that goes with it. It's the memories, the stories, the relationships that you build, and it helps them choose your product over another. Just think about for a second your favourite brand. It's probably not because of a good logo, it's probably not because of the style, it's because there's trust there. There's something in your gut that you know about that brand that makes you want to go back and shop with them more and more. Your identity is all about frameworks. So yes, we do need guidelines. These frameworks are all about creating a consistent brand so that your audience know who you are and when to trust you. And your logo, that's purely or mainly as a representation tool. It normally comes as a logo type or an icon, and it helps people recognize which brand is which. So the design process, a bit tricky at first. I struggle with this every day, but I love it as well. At the left-hand side, it's full of opportunity, full of different options to choose from, and it can be a bit squiggly, a bit confusing, but with a tight process you can funnel this down to a more direct approach. Different way of looking at it, you got your double-sided diamond. As you start thinking openly, funneling out to new ideas, new opportunities as you go through the discovery process, see what the options are, and then you start to define the solution as you come to your value proposition, thinking about what you have to offer and who exactly it's for. But as you develop that into creative mood boards and ideas and illustrations and sketches, you'll probably diverge again, thinking about many opportunities and lots of different concepts. And as you start to deliver the ideas, you want to funnel down so you can end up on one or two final solutions. So the big idea. Well, when we talk to clients as an agency, we want to know very quickly if the company or the founder or their representatives have a really good understanding of what they stand for. If they can't say it within 30 seconds, it's no big problem because that's why they're talking to us, but it is worrying. It should be relatively straightforward to explain their elevator pitch, and this is where the value proposition comes in. So in terms of motivation, we're looking for a sweet spot. Your personal passion, what you love to do, your customer value, What can you offer them that they will want to pay for, or give up something in return for your product or service? And then what profit can you get from this? If there's no profit, it's going to be very tricky to sustain the business unless you've got a pot of cash. So ideally, you want a bit of all three to find your sweet spot. You can survive without one of these, but it's going to be pretty tough and not that much fun. Olive Branch is a really good example of a company that's combined all three, the passion, the value, and profit. Husband and wife team, they produced the company whilst working elsewhere, and gradually made this a full-time opportunity. They knew from the start that olive oil was not going to be the only product, and had a full range of products that they can work with later to make it profitable. So in terms of market research, this is key really. Think about your surveys, think about interviews you can do, one-on-ones, focus groups. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money, but it will probably take a little bit of time. But ultimately, you'll look 12 months down the line and you would have saved lots of pain and ache from misguided directions you're going in. So think about these questions. Who are your customers? Who are they exactly? What are their characteristics? What do they buy now? Are they competitors? Are they buying from you and you're gonna create a new product range? Why do they buy? What are their jobs? What are their tasks that they need to complete? What are the pains that are involved in getting these done? What are the gains that they want to receive in order to benefit from these jobs? Is there a market need? Is there a problem to be solved? Make sure it's a tier 1 problem, so it's high priority for them. Are your customers willing to pay? Well, if you've got a letter of intent from a supermarket, that's great. If you've got paying customers, no matter how small, as long as they're willing to part with cash, you're proving to a certain extent that your product is worth selling. If you've already got customers, that's fantastic. Look at your net promoter score, give that a quick Google. You really want to get 8s, 9s and 10s out of 10 in terms of satisfaction. And it basically means that they would refer you as a brand to their friends and family. And finally, are you pricing effectively? Look at competitors, see what the prices are, look at your costs, think about how much profit you want or need to survive, and then see how much, what pricing elasticity your customers have. Here's a look at lots of different types of research. I won't go through them all, but basically there's 2 types. Primary research, which you can do and puts you ahead of the game, a lot more time consuming, but the results are often better. And secondary research. This is available freely on the internet, in magazines, from competitors, in brochures, in books, in reports, etc. The only problem with that is everyone gets this research and has free access to it, or nominal fees. So try and mix the two. Equally, we want a bit of quantitative research with numbers, data, to really dive into the detail, and qualitative research. We want to actually talk to people, we want to get anecdotal evidence, we want to get case studies, and you really want to mix and match the two. So as I said, think about one-on-ones, workshops, possibly co-creation workshops so you can really understand your audience. Focus groups, you'll be surprised how much a pizza and a room with some drinks will encourage people to come and chat with you. Typeform and SurveyMonkey are really good survey tools. They start at free, and you can reach a lot of people these days through Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, those sort of networks, and you could probably get to 100 people quite quickly. So, your MVP. This is taken somewhat from the tech industry and the car industry originally, looking at minimum viable products. Doesn't necessarily mean you want to do it the cheapest way, but it is the best way. So if you have a web landing page at the moment, you can start one for free on things like Squarespace or Strikingly. You can measure the data, and you don't even need to sell the product. For example, you could have your product information, a big button saying buy me. You can take everyone's details and then put them in a waiting list for when you've actually made the product. But this data is really interesting because it will justify whether people are willing to actually make a purchase if they get that far through the process. Money Guru, really good example of a minimum viable product, probably not the most minimum, but we help them to get on the road to creating a mobile app. And at first they didn't have enough budget to create the app itself, so we got them as far as the first round of investment. Did this with a slick brand, value proposition, an animation to explain what they do, lots of designs and prototypes, clickable prototypes using InVision app or Marvel app, and a landing page website to show off what they have planned. Because of that, and because of the founder's presentation, they managed to secure investment and have gone on to the second round of investment too. So, networking. Now, this is really key. Possibly not anything to do with branding necessarily, but it's about your personal brand. So think about networking as much as you can. Get out at least once a week to various opportunities, even if that means a webinar where you talk to people online. It's really good to meet suppliers, partners, possible clients, and just other founders who are going through the same struggles as you. Here are just a few different places you can go online. Meetup and Eventbrite, Facebook are probably the most generic, and we'll give you a wide range of options. But you can look for industry-specific meetups, but also jump outside your industry to get a different point of view, because it's often a little bit of a bubble that you can be in. So think about your unique selling points. So now we're starting to get a bit creative with it, and the good old video from Simon Sinek, The Golden Circle, which you can see on TED Talks. If you just look up Golden Circle, Simon Sinek, you'll see his why, how, what video. And as he goes on to explain, everyone knows their what for a brand. You know what you do and how you deliver it. You probably know your processes, your systems, you know what makes you different, but not many companies know why. Now, really think about why you get up every day to do what you're doing, especially if you're starting out, why your organisation exists, why your team should even care, your first employees, and therefore why your customers should care. Why should they buy your product over another? You might have the same features, you might have the same product, you might have the same service. There's lots of competition out there, but you can still be different. You can offer something better. Maybe it's speed, maybe it's quality of service, maybe it's the output, maybe it's the ideas, maybe it's the customer service. Whatever it is, make sure you understand it. And the important thing here is to sell the sizzle, not the sausage. As I say, everyone probably has similar sort of features, if not the same. So that's the sausage. But you can sell the benefits. What can you do for your customer to make their life better? We're looking at the business model canvas now. Have a Google of it because there's tons of resources online. We're going to focus on two areas, the value proposition and your customer segments. And as we zoom in, you can see this is more about the product market fit. So if you've got a product on the left, your gift, your bundle of offering, and then on the right, you've got your customer profile. Now, you might have a number of different customer profiles, so you'd want to make up a few boards like this. If we dive in deeper, you'll look at your customer profile, and you can see that you've got jobs, pains, and gains. On the left-hand side, your jobs are the tasks that they need or want to complete. A simple one is wanting to entertain themselves with a film. What's the pain? Well, they might not be able to find what they want. The cinema might not be close by. The cinema might be expensive or a bit too not the quality they want. What's the gain? Well, they're going to get entertained. They're going to free themselves from daily life and expand their mind in a comfortable surrounding. So if you're going to look at your value map on the left-hand side, what's your offering? Well, the product is simple. It's a cinema. It's got a screen, it's got comfortable seats, and the latest films. Pain Reliever is actually their app or their website makes it really easy for people to find the movie. They also provide discounts on days when it's a bit quieter, so Monday and Tuesdays, so it gives people different options, and it's quiet environment. It's not always full. The Game Creator, well, you could have a really beautiful cinema that has comfy seats, lots of space, good food, good drinks, and allows for a bar and a cafe for people to relax in afterwards. So think about all those offerings of your product and service that you can give to your customer. Here's a illustration of Uber, Uber the taxi service. Obviously, most of you will have used this or at least heard of it. Here's a quick example of the connections between your pain relievers and your pain points, your gain creators and the gains, and then the product itself and the jobs that people want to do. So have a look at those. So what's your story? So many times I talk to customers, particularly founders, and they just don't think there's anything personal about what they're doing. But when you dive deeper, you find out that the idea for the product came because of a family history. Maybe their grandmother created the original ingredient. Maybe their grandfather gave them the inspiration to launch their business. Maybe their spouse helped them on the journey, and it's all part of that story. And if you make it personal, you can connect the dots. So it's building the emotional connection with your customer. They don't want to just buy from any other business, otherwise we'd just be full of huge corporates without any human element to them. Nowadays, even more so than ever, it's all about the small business, it's about the individual, and it's about the winner story that goes with it. One example is that hungry chef. Pratap went around the world after a great career as a chef, took some time out to experience different things and particularly food as he travelled the world, and he came back and started a new company with his wife, and part of that story is in the brand itself. We have a world with a big bite out of it, and the planes going around it. He's from India originally, and wanted to bring in not just an Indian element, but a colonial aspect to the brand as well. And when he's at food exhibitions, when he's talking about his brand, when he's running his supper clubs, he can talk about that story, and that helps make his product stand out. So, what about your story? Well, I think the key in this list is the wow factor. What is your wow? How do you stand out? Rather than explaining what you do, number 4, why don't you start with why and wow? Because it means you can stand out from everyone else. So at a networking event, most people say, hey, what do you do? You can stop them for a second and say, well, I'll tell you why I do it and how I've helped other people. So whether you're selling a product or a service, you can explain that in more detail. Add as many facts as possible, statistics, make sure it's real, of course, and show passion behind it as well. So go through steps 1 to 7, and particularly if you are pitching or it's a pitch opportunity, maybe you need to impress someone at a networking event, or you want something in return, do have that ask ready. Do you want funding? Do you want advice? Do you want their feedback? Do you want a partner? Whatever it is, remember to ask, because otherwise you can lose that opportunity. So now we're on to the creation and collaboration stage. Creating a brief. Well, I've spent the last 10 years running the company and developed the brief again and again every few months, adding new questions and trying to create a format that helps collect the data and the information as quickly as possible. This is a workshop in its own right, but I'll quickly jump through it now. A few key questions. What is in it for the individual or the company, personally or professionally? What are the real aims? If you understand that, you can really deliver the right sort of output for them. what makes their service or product different. If you are branding your work, or are you helping someone else brand the work, really is key to understand what makes them different. We quickly understand what makes everyone the same, but we want to know what makes them stand out. Who are they selling to, or who are you selling to? Because if you don't know your audience, you can't really start anywhere. You can't appeal to everyone. What does success look like, and what are the biggest challenges? These are really big open questions, but they really get to the crux of the problem. And then we're looking at key details, things like why do you exist? Again, we'll come back to that again and again. What's the deadline and what's the budget? Really keep those in mind, because it does affect the output of whatever you're going to deliver. In terms of naming, there's no one-trick pony for this, but it tends to be best if you keep it short, if you keep it memorable and easy to spell. Sometimes people want it to be beautiful, things like Google and Flickr and anything with vowels in it. It tends to be prettier in the English language. But also consider what the competitors are doing. Obviously, you don't want to be exactly like a competitor, but you might want to fit with convention. The key is, once you've shortlisted maybe, say, 5 names, and given them a rating, take them through criteria that fits with your brand, test them. Get them out to the audience, and if you can, test them with a logo, so that people get a better understanding of what you're trying to communicate. Loop was a really good example of this. We co-created with young people who were the end users. Loop is an online platform to help young people, students, review their schools and colleges online, and we wanted them to help build it. So we got them in the loop, we got their feedback, we helped them get their teachers and parents in the loop, and connect the dots together. And they also help with the website as well. In terms of positioning, you want to look at your vision statement. Where do you want to go? What's your goal? Think about 1, 3 and 5 year plans. Anything beyond that's a bit too far. Mission statement, how are you going to get there? What are the day-to-day tasks? What are the month-to-month tasks that you're going to do and your team's going to do to achieve your ultimate vision? Your value proposition, as we said, what's the offering for your customers? Your values, what do you stand by every day that keeps you on track? Is it quality? Is it speed of delivery? Is it price? Is it environmental considerations? Whatever it is, keep them in mind. What's the tone of voice? Are you traditional? Is it formal? Is it informal? Is it fun? Is it friendly? How are you going to communicate that with your customers? And then what's your promise and your tagline? Ours is dream, create, and amaze, and it also is the criteria for our process, the values that we live by, part of our value proposition as well. This is a breakdown of your value proposition. What is your service? Who is the market? What are the key benefits? That's the key part. Why should that even matter? And particularly, why does it matter to your customers? And what are the outcomes of these benefits? If you type in value proposition templates to Google, you will get loads of different options. So have a look at them and see which one fits with yours. An example of your target audience. So we now start to get visual. We want to help your designer or yourself to visualize who your customer is. Here's another example, looking at more detail, some stats in there, some written words, names given to people, photos as well. Here's some illustration work. Some of it's from companies like Channel 4. Obviously, they're going to have bigger budgets to really dive deep into the personas, but it is really important so that they can truly understand their customers. Here's a quicker way of doing it with mood boards. Get some magazines, go on Google Images, go on stock libraries, and put it all together just to get a sense of who you're talking to. So you got that in mind. And if you're in a studio, put these up on the wall so everyone keeps them in mind. Mood boards are really helpful for concepts as well. So this is for a hospital or GP surgery that we worked for, creating a web app. And we wanted it to be modern, clinical, of course, clean, friendly, inviting, and hopefully this mood board guides us in that journey. Here's a mood board for an Indian brand, an Indian food and beverage brand. Wanted to be modern, Western, but with the heritage back to India as well. Quite fun, colourful, bright, and elements like typography, patterns, and texture of the paint help us to bring that to life. Here's a mood board for a mental health charity that worked with people in the criminal sector, and it's quite dark and thought-provoking, and there's a lot of metaphors in there as well, so it really helped us to produce better imagery and the brand for their website. Coming to the end now, just wanted to show you a few evolutions, so don't worry about getting the brand right first time. Obviously these companies are relatively old, at least decades. As you can see, Pepsi actually used to be a lot more like Coca-Cola, and so probably chose purposely to differentiate themselves so they could make their own niche. McDonald's didn't even have the golden arches at the start. As I mentioned earlier, they started with hot dogs amongst other food, but after a while they started focusing on burgers alone. And the golden arches have probably now, if we're looking at 2018, all they need is that. They don't even need I'm loving it or anything to do with McDonald's, the name. Starbucks, the green dot was a prediction a couple of years ago, and actually last year there was a white dot on a green cup from an official Starbucks coffee shop, so it's happened. They don't need much more than the colour and the circle to show off their brand, so that shows the power of branding. In terms of identity, we have a bit of a process that I'm sure many agencies follow. We look at mood boards, we do lots of research, we do ideation. What does that mean? That means concepts, sketches, we chat, we brainstorm. We put this together in logo marks and logo types, so the typography and the icons, and we start working these ideas up on the computer. We work with the client to refine the identity over a few rounds, and then we create the colour systems, the fonts, templates for things like stationery and posters and flyers, and ultimately put together a guideline. And the guideline looks a little bit like this. This is for Our Camden, a membership program for over 50s in Camden area, so they can get discounts, but we didn't want it necessarily to look like an old person's membership. It's all about how young you feel, so it's a chance for people in the area to live, work and play in Camden. And online, everyone's online these days. You don't even have to spend any money to get online. You can use sites like Strikingly, which is completely free. MailChimp starts at free. Twitter is definitely free. WordPress.com is free. Actually, .org is free as well, but .com is much easier to use, and you can get some free themes to start up. And Squarespace is pretty cheap. I think it's about £100 a year. All of these can be done by yourself. You don't need a freelancer, you don't need an agency, but they do take time. So if you've got time, go for it. And if you're willing to learn, try it out. But if you want to speed things up, you want the help of an agency or freelancer, then get onto sites like behance.com and you can find one there. And finally, creating a buzz. Well, if you've got your value proposition right, if you've got the images, if you've got the identity, if you know what you're offering and who's it for, then you should be able to write in one page a nice headline, a tweet that's easy to share, some bullet points explaining why it is you do what you do, how you do it and what you do, and then some engaging images which make the journalist's life much easier. So if they're going to blog about you or write about you in the press or talk about you at an event, make their life as easy as possible, because they tend to get hundreds and hundreds of emails every day. So if you like this and you have any more questions, please go to thehouselondon.com or email me, michael@thehouselondon.com, or tweet us at thehouselondon. Thank you very much for listening, and speak to you soon.